Hello, everybody. Welcome to Action Church Online. This is a virtual faith community for people who want to make things happen. I am Michael Teague, your faith leader. You can call me Mike. You can call me Pastor Finesse. Just don't call me late for dinner. I'm just kidding. So I'm beginning a series of messages called Hustle Lessons from Jesus. I know that those of you who watch this may say, what? Jesus, a hustler? I'm going to define that in just for a moment. Before I do that, what did I just say? I'm going to define that just for a moment. I'm going to define that in a moment. First, let me talk about the fact that Action Church Online is a virtual faith community that's designed for three kinds of people. Number one, you're a seeker of truth. I'm an independent contractor with a rideshare company. And I transported a passenger today who was a Muslim. And I said, I respect all faiths. My departed father, my deceased father was a Muslim. I've been to Juma prayer. I have a Quran in my home. And he and I were talking, chopping it up, as they say, in an urban environment. If you're a seeker of truth, you're trying to decide, is there a God or is there not a God? Agnostics say we don't know. Atheists say there is not. Theists say there is. Are you a seeker of truth? Do you want to know what ultimate reality is? Action Church Online is the virtual faith community for you. And watch this. You're a skeptic. You're not just going to automatically agree with something or accept something or give intellectual assent to something. You're going to test it. You're going to critique it. You're going to analyze it. You're going to add the scientific method to it. That's all good. I like that. You can't be convinced easily. I like that. Action Church Online is the virtual faith community for you. And here's the thing also, that you are a change agent. There's an election coming up, I think November. We know who the two candidates are. This is not a political broadcast. This is a faith-based broadcast. At the same time, I need to make it very, very clear to you that faith does impact politics. I think I'm going to deliver a message or two on the politics of Jesus. Now, Jesus was not a politician, but if he were a politician, he would have a particular ideology. I'll put that aside. I'm trying to engage you and get you interested and say, hey, I'm gonna listen to this. I'm gonna listen to this guy, Mike. You don't like what's happening with immigration. Do something about it. You don't like what's happening with police brutality. Do something about it. You don't like what's going on in terms of economic inequity. Do something about it. You don't like what's going on in healthcare, that is too expensive. It may very well be. Do something about it. It was Mahatma Gandhi who said, be the change that you want to see in the world. The late, great Michael Jackson said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to make a change. So Action Church Online is that virtual faith community for the seeker, the skeptic, and the change agent. Jesus was a hustler. Not the street hustler, not the hustler dealing in criminality or controlled substances or smash and grab or scamming, breaking and entering, any of those kinds of things. No, Jesus was a hustler because he got things done with all the resources at his disposal. Jesus got things done with all the resources at his disposal. So I'm talking now to the hustlers. Are you trying to get things done? You're trying to get things done on the job. You can learn hustle lessons from Jesus. You're trying to get things done in your family. You can learn hustle lessons from Jesus. You're trying to get things done in your community. I've heard it said that all politics is local. You can learn hustle lessons from Jesus, and you have a global consciousness. You want to change your world. I want to commend you. I respect that that is one of your aspirations. You, like me, can learn hustle lessons from Jesus. About 10 lessons that we can learn regarding the hustle from Jesus. Here's the one I want to deal with today. Stay close to the streets. Stay close to the streets. Hustle lesson number 1 from Jesus is stay close to the streets. Jesus didn't have armor bearers. I'm talking any Christian people now, church people now. He didn't have armor bearers. He didn't have adjutants. He said they were women who tended to his needs. I don't know if they were adjutants. I don't know if they carried the Old Testament scriptures. I don't know if they did all that. It seemed like Jesus, and he wasn't ensconced inside the walls of the church. Jesus kept it close to the streets. Jesus was approachable. Listen, Jesus conversed with common people. Jesus taught not only his disciples, he taught those who are part of the nation of Israel, as well as those who were part of the Roman Empire, because if you study history, you know that Israel, or Israel, depending upon how you pronounce it, they were a colony of Rome. Jesus, conversed with so-called sinners. Those that church folk didn't have time for. Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan. Talked about a priest, a Levite, and another faith person who saw a man by the road having been beaten. They walked by him, but a Samaritan. And the Jews, from a gospel standpoint, I don't want anybody to accuse me of being anti-Semitic. From a gospel standpoint, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Matthew, Mark, and Luke being the synoptic gospels, John was a separate take on the life of Jesus as Samaritan. And Jews and Samaritans, I understand, in that time didn't get along. Took care of the man. I'm condensing the story. Jesus talked to common people. He kept it close to the streets. He stayed close to the people. It's like he was a community activist. He was there. He was right there in the thick of it. If there were protests going on in Jesus' time, he would have been right there. Maybe he would not have been in the front. He may have been blended among the crowd, but he would have been there. If we want to hustle like Jesus, we've got to keep it close to the streets. We've got to stay close to the people. Christian leaders, you have to stay close to the people. Hustlers who may not have yet made a decision about Jesus, learn from him. Stay close to the people. If you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur like I am, stay close to your workers. It is said that when the cat's away, the mice will play. Stay close to your workers. Every now and then come out of the office. I know you have a lot to deal with. Any CEO does. Every now and then come out of the office, walk around the office. If you have an industrial type of business, walk around the factory. One of my former business mentor was part of a mastermind group. And in this mastermind group, the leader of the mastermind group said to a bunch of CEOs, walk the 4 corners of your building. Every now and then, go to the desk of one of your team members. You want to call employees, your employees, and say, how you doing? How's the family? Anything I can do for you? How about your leadership team? Hustling. Jesus had a team. That's next week's message. This message is stay close to the streets. Stay close. Listen, parents, stay close to your children. My son and I, and I'll talk about that next week. I stay close to my son. Now I'm going to tell it. My ex-wife is preventing my son from seeing me. We have joint custody and we've shared weeks for 17 years. I haven't seen my son since June of last year. That said, what did I learn about Jesus staying close? I was close to my son. We had open lines of communication. I would ask him every now and then, King, I used to call him King. How you doing? How's school? I was the only carpool father who consistently provided rides to my son and his friends. And I was close to the streets in that regard. When I picked them up, they would go to Sky Zone, Six Flags, to the mall, wherever they were going, football games. I had 3 questions for them. 3. Number 1, how you doing? Number 2, how's school? Number 3, how's the girlies treating you? And I would hear everything. I didn't snitch then, and I'm not snitching now. Only thing I told them is whatever you share in this car stays in this car. Unless there's something that you're going to do to harm yourself or others, then all bets are off. That said, I stayed close to my son. Parents, stay close to your children. Monitor what they're looking at on social media. I think the National Institute of Health, or I think it was the National Institute of Health, not the World Health Organization, has designated, and I think it was also the Surgeon General, has designated, so there's a mental health crisis among our youth, largely driven by social media. Watch, yeah, that's a Lamborghini. Watch, monitor their TikTok. Why is this a Lamborghini? That's my dream car. That's it. Monitor their Snapchat, their TikTok, their Facebook, their Instagram, all of it, whatever else. Check it out. If you're paying for the phone, it's not their phone, really, it's your phone. Think about that. Now, a child going to tell you, don't look at my phone. If they're not paying for it, to me, it's not their phone. Stay close to your children. Jesus, stay close to the streets. Stay close to your community. What's going on in your community? What's going on socioeconomically? What's going on politically? When was the last time you were at a city council meeting? It is said that all politics are local. I'm not talking any candidate right now, you see. However, the gospel does impact politics. Again, I'm going to deal with that. Not today, because we're talking about hustle lessons from Jesus, and we're talking about stay close to the streets. And for all pastors, ministers, reverends, apostles, bishops, respect. As long as you're following Christ, you have my respect. I heard a pastor say this in a message that I listened to. He essentially said, I know pastors that God moves through, but God's not in. When you stay close to the streets, number 1, educate. A leader educates, a CEO educates, an entrepreneur educates, a parent educates. A community activist educates. Then communicate. Keep the lines of communication open with spouses. You know, when I go to dinner, I'll sit by myself and I'll look around the restaurant. And for a lot of years, I was a big diner person. Not so much anymore because my life has changed. My lifestyle has changed. My time structure has changed. So I don't do that so much. But I would watch, and it's interesting to see how many people just sit there eating, not talking. Or if they're Gen Zers or millennials, they'll be on their phones. How are you at dinner? And I'm not saying you can't look at your phone, but if I'm out to dinner with you, I'm going to talk to you, and I would hope that you would talk to me. Otherwise, there's something fundamentally wrong. So even spouses, stay close, keep the lines of communication open. So educate, communicate, and watch this. And this is where I'm going to turn it. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to twist it. Emancipate or liberate. See, Jesus method, I feel this right now, was to stay close to the streets, close to the people, close to those who were the lost, the least, the last, the lowest, and the left out. Not only so that he could educate them, not only so that he could communicate to them, but ultimately that he could emancipate. How, Mike? By dying on the cross in their place, so that in accepting him, they could be free. Emancipate. The great, other than Lincoln, President Lincoln's, the great Emancipation Proclamation is, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish, but have eternal life. Jesus stayed close to the streets so that ultimately he could emancipate humanity. We reached a moment right now in which I've dealt with the first hustle lesson of Jesus: stay close to the streets. Jesus came ultimately to emancipate or liberate. He wants to liberate you right now. Right now. It's as easy as ABC: accept, believe, confess. Accept the fact that Jesus was more than just a good teacher. You're skeptical, more than just a good teacher. And I want to invite you, before you make a decision, there's someone who can make a decision right now. You're like, all right, Mike, Jesus was a hustler. I'll grant that. I still don't think he was the son of God. Okay. Read Mark's gospel. It's the shortest of all the four gospels. I don't believe Jesus was God the Son. All right, read John's gospel. I want to know the story of early Christianity, from Jesus' ministry on to the first disciples and apostles in the early church movement. Okay, read Luke, Acts. It's a 2-volume work, Luke, Acts. That said, somebody tonight, you want to be liberated. You want to be emancipated. You want to be freed from doubt, freed from fear, freed from worry. Jesus can do that for you. He did it for me. Freed from your imperfections, free, and I don't want to use the word sin, but the way in which you miss the mark on a regular, because you don't have the power of Christ residing in you to help you hit the mark. You're a student. You can't hit the mark of good grades. Jesus can help you do that. You're a spouse and you have problems in your marriage. You're trying, but you can't hit the mark of being that husband, or being that wife, or being that parent, or being that worker, or being that entrepreneur, or being that community activist. Jesus has the power, the same power that he used when he spoke to the winds and to the waves and said, "Peace, be still," and the storm stopped. It's the same power that he used when he met a demoniac, one who was demon possessed. For those of us who believe in the demon possession, maybe you don't, Maybe you believe he was mentally ill, so he met a psychotic in the graveyard. You gotta listen. If your residence is in the graveyard, I'm not saying go when you go there to visit a loved one, but if your residence is in the graveyard, it's a problem. Jesus liberated that man. Watch this. I'm about to close. Jesus liberated a dead man from death. His name was Lazarus, and Jesus said, Lazarus, come forth. And I've heard pastors say if Jesus hadn't called Lazarus by name, the whole grave would have gotten up. That same Jesus, hustler, stayed close to the streets. He educated, he communicated, he emancipated. He's here for you tonight. All you have to do is say yes. I'm going to make it even more simple than ABC. Say yes. Jesus, yes. I accept you as my Savior, the one who liberates, and more importantly, my Lord, the one who controls my life. I got to do a whole message about that. Just say yes. If you said yes, message me on WhatsApp, 908-644-4122. We can talk. I want to be your pastor. I want to help you live this Christian life, as I've had pastors from college on to help me live it. We're going to end with this. Action Church, virtual faith community for people who want to make things happen. I'm your faith leader, Michael T. As I do with every broadcast, I say this: start where you are with what you have and do something for God today. Stay close to the streets. One love. Peace. God bless.